The podcast website is live, the curiositychamberpodcast.com. Hope to see you guys on there. And without further ado, let's get into this next guest. And we are live. Award-winning author Stephen Hawley Martin will enthrall listeners with insights about the true nature of reality, the afterlife, and reincarnation. And the word enthrall, I did not know what that means, so that's why I reached out to you, so you can explain that one to me.
Enthrall. Well, I'm glad to be here, Jay. Thanks for having me. Enthrall, I guess, gets you really wrapped up so that you are paying close attention.
I was enthralled about the word enthralled.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so thank you for being here. There's probably like a 37% chance that I'm actually going to perish during this podcast because I'm so hungry. I haven't eaten yet.
Oh my gosh, what time is it where you are?
Yeah, it's 7:34 where I'm at. I know you're East Coast, 8:34, right?
Yeah. So, you have dinner at 8 normally, I guess.
Yeah, right around there, and I feel like I might go belly up, but that makes for the best conversations. So we're gonna see what we can do here. I guess my first question for you is, how do you feel about human taxidermy?
You mean going to the morgue and stuffing people full of some kind of alcohol or whatever it is they embalm people with?
Oh, that's exactly right.
I hadn't really thought about it much, except that I don't think it makes a whole lot of sense. I've already told my wife, if I go before she does, to have me cremated and spread my ashes over the James River, where I lived most of my life and where I grew up swimming in the river.
Yeah, okay. That seems romantic. I was on the ride home. I have a motorcycle and I was riding home and I'm just like, if I get blasted by a car or a train, like, does it like how do we know that the correct way to do it is to be buried or to be cremated?
Well, I guess Christianity, and I'm a Christian. I believe Jesus was, came to tell us how we should live. Of course, we're not following his instructions very well, but the thing about it is, at least back in the day, Christianity had the idea that everybody was going to rise, out of the grave at judgment time. You've seen those paintings from the Middle Ages, I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
And so I guess the idea was if you had your body cremated, you wouldn't be able to do that. So that's why we're still doing it. It's just
so that's why you're doing it, huh?
Well, the thing of it is, I'm pretty sure you're going to get a new body when you rise again from the dead.
Okay, there we go. Yeah.
So, but that one that's been sitting down there for a couple of centuries is not going to be too good anyway. I mean,
exactly. No, I'm with you. I was just curious that maybe if it was legal, I would go the taxidermy route and just have me stuffed and kept in my son's room or something. I don't know.
Yeah, well, that kind of sounds like, what was that movie of Psycho? Yeah, where the lady was in the rocking chair. Yeah, like that.
I should go see a shrink or something. Oh my Lord. I totally forgot about that. You're right.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. So let me ask you what your credentials are before we dive deep. I know offline we were talking about metaphysics and that's kind of your wheelhouse, but I want to get some of your credentials and the listeners so they know exactly who you are and what you're bringing to the table before we jump into this.
Yeah, well, I'll give you a brief autobiography, I guess.
Please.
I spent most of my life in the advertising business, and I had a lot of fun doing that. But back when I was about 25, 26, I had what is commonly called a near-death experience. It was a very brief one. I won't go into a lot of detail about how it happened, but to say that I was lying in my bed and things were spinning around and I really felt horrible. And all of a sudden, and I felt like my chest was swelling up. And suddenly it was sort of like I just popped out and everything was calm. And I kind of looked around and I saw my body down on the bed, and it was just looked like roadkill down there.
Oh no!
Now,
No.
up until that point, Jay, I had been brought up in a pretty much of a scientific materialist kind of home where people thought that if you couldn't see it under a microscope, it didn't exist. And so I didn't. I thought I was my body up until then, and then I looked out. And I realized, hey, wait a minute. That's my body down here, and I'm up here. So I'm not my body. So that's what started me on this journey that I've been on now for quite some time. And after that, I tried to find out everything I could about metaphysics and what the true nature of reality was. I joined what's called the Rosicrucian order, the Rosy Cross, the Rosicrucian order, and the Rosicrucians, which are headquartered now in Jose, California. It's a society of people who study metaphysics, and they have a whole course you can go through. At the time that I did it, it was a kind of a mail order course, but I went through all their literature and studied and took exams and went from what's called a novice to an adept.
Is
About
metaphysics commonly known? I want to, if it's not, I want you to go ahead and explain to people what metaphysics is for the listeners. I don't know if that's a common used word or not. I have no idea.
Well, I'll try to explain as best I can. Physics, if you ever took that in school, is the study of matter and how it behaves. You know, what was the guy's name?
Bill
Isaac.
Nye, the science guy.
Well, him, but I was thinking of Isaac
That's as
Newton.
far as I got.
Isaac Newton is the guy who figured
Ah,
out, that for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction and all things like that. Well, that's physics. Metaphysics, meta means more than or beyond physics. So what is metaphysics is the study of what is beyond the physical, which scientific materialists like my parents would say there is nothing beyond the material. But the reality is that the physical world had to come from somewhere, and where it came from and is the metaphysical world, what is beyond the physics, the spiritual world, the world of mind. To me, and certainly what the Rosicrucians believe, and I hope I'm not betraying their trust here with because you could find this out anywhere probably. But what's beyond the physical is what I call mind. We are a part of one mind that is having what might be compared to a dream, and we're characters within this dream. And it may look like we're separate from everything else, that we're enclosed, encapsulated in our bodies, that we're here and you're there, and I'm here and you're over there. But the fact of the matter is, we're all part of this one mind. There is no such thing as material substance in the way that most people think of it. If you ask any quantum physicist, everything is energy,
yeah.
everything is vibration. Molecules and atoms and all that are just little vibrating things that vibrate at different rates and form what looks like solid stuff. But just like my voice is going through the air into this computer and you're hearing it 1,000 miles away, there's a lot of stuff that's not physical. Radio waves aren't physical. TV waves aren't. The internet, the Wi-Fi that you're hooked to is stuff going through the air. Well, back when people developed the idea that all that exists is material substance, they didn't have radio. They didn't have Wi-Fi. They didn't think that things could go through the air, that there were non-physical energy existed out there that you couldn't see. And so we're still many people at least, are still holding on to that idea that all that exists is physical reality and that we're bodies and we're like robots that have a computer-like brain that creates our thoughts and our awareness, when no scientist anywhere yet has been able to figure out how the brain creates consciousness, because the brain does not create consciousness. The brain is a receiver of consciousness, like your radio or your cell phone is a receiver of the signals that come from somewhere, some tower somewhere far away.
Essentially, it's just a tool of
Yeah,
some sort.
right. We're our bodies are really kind of. I compare them to like a diving suit that allows a diving suit allows you to operate under the water and walk around and do whatever you swim under the water. Whereas your body allows you to operate in this particular reality, which is only one of many, many realities. It's a very dense reality. And you come here through your mother's womb, and you grow a body, and by the time you're about 18 or 19, you pretty much got it completed.
Crazy question that always goes through my mind is, well, there's multiple crazy questions. And by the way, when you were just speaking, you blew my mind. And I was about to end the podcast just because of some of the things you were saying, that it's so complex. I was about to push stop and just go take a nap or something. This is it's like it's so complex. It's so crazy to like you've spent probably years digging into this stuff. And
Absolutely.
yeah, and to be hearing it, like, for the average listener, how could they possibly comprehend? You know what I mean?
Well, if you've thought all along, through your whole life that you're your body, then yeah, it's probably a pretty startling thing to hear that you're not your body. You're a spiritual being who is eternal, who is having a temporary physical experience, and it's something you've probably had hundreds, if not thousands, of times. Reincarnation is a real thing.
That's the kind of the camp that I'm in as well with the reincarnation. I do believe that. I haven't fully subscribed yet. I mean, I'm still, the way I see it is I'm still young and I'm still trying to like collect data and see where I end up. So I'm very open-minded to a lot of things. But the question that I was going to ask you, that is constantly repeated in my mind is, what was I before I was that little sperm that went into an egg? Like, what were those moments when I was just nothing,
You,
Like,
you were, you, Jay, you were never just nothing. You have always been and you will always be. You are a bundle of energy that's conscious. And when you when that egg and the sperm got together, your consciousness decided this is an opportunity for me to come back into the world, into the physical dimension, and maybe learn some stuff that I haven't learned or experience some things that I haven't experienced before. I really see the earth as a school that we come to, not just to play football or basketball or whatever, but also to learn things. I mean, we have fun or we have hard times when we're here, but all of it contributes to our growth and evolution, and that's what every one of us is about. We're all evolving. That's what life does. It's what has been happening on Earth since I think something like 3.77 billion years ago. Life has been evolving, and when you got here, since you've been here first, whenever it was, a couple 100,000 years ago, maybe, you've been evolving over and over again through subsequent reincarnations.
damn.
And
I guess when I'm reincarnated again, I think the first words I should learn is "I'm sorry, Mom." Here I am again.
that's
Sorry.
right. Yeah. There's a unit up at the University of Virginia. I'm in Virginia and in Richmond, Virginia, and up in Charlottesville, about 70 miles away, there's the University of Virginia, and they have a medical school. And in that University of Virginia Medical School, there is a department. Actually, it's called a division, called the Division of Perceptual Studies, and it was founded in 1967. And it was founded by a guy named Ian Stevenson, who since 1962, he died in 2007. Since in 1962, he started studying the children's memories of past lives.
Oh, I love this stuff. I love this topic. I'll ask
Yeah.
my kid. I have a 6-year-old, and
Uh-huh.
I always ask him about his previous life. I'm like, so what were you doing before you were born? Were you in heaven? Like he tells me that he was waiting in line
Yeah, yeah. Well, he's telling you the truth, but not every kid remembers a past life. Some of them do, but I'll tell you what, the University of Virginia now has over 2,500 cases that they've studied,
Lord.
and well over half of them, they say they have quote solved unquote, which means they have found the individual that the
Yeah.
child said he was, according to their name and what they did for a living and where they lived and who they were maybe married to and the children they had and the friends. And so last time I talked to the head of the what's called the Division of Perceptual Studies, his name is Jim B.
Jim Beam?
No,
What are we doing here?
yeah, no, not Jim B. Jim B. Tucker. He's a child psychiatrist. He said at that time, it's been a while since I talked to him. I used to have a podcast, Jay, and I've interviewed well over 100 people who are studying these things, like children's memories of past lives and near-death experiences. I've interviewed quantum physicists. I've interviewed people who are studying the paranormal. They're people who go into haunted houses with all kinds of equipment and find the spirits, all that. I've interviewed all those people. But anyway, the University of Virginia has more than 2,500 cases, well over half of which have been quote unquote solved. And they've also, that same division of perceptual studies is also studying, and has been for quite some time, near-death experiences, near-death survivors, people who say they died and they've come back, to tell the tale. And they also study what's called terminal lucidity, where someone who is maybe has Alzheimer's or some sort of dementia or goes into a coma and really is not lucid for some period of time.
That's what I'm interested in. Yeah.
Right before they die, many of them will become lucid and have a conversation with their family or their relatives, whoever's around, and it could last anywhere from 10 minutes to a few hours, and then they die. And their theory is that what happens when the brain is what is not receiving things right because it's messed up.
Yeah.
But when they die, the brain lets go of the consciousness, and the person is able to becomes lucid for a short period of time before they do finally, pass away.
What do you feel about psychedelics? Because what you're saying right now, like you're allowing the brain to kind of let go. I feel like some psychedelics have the ability to do that as well.
Well, more and more that is becoming something that people realize, that scientists realize, the fact that it's not that the brain creates that psychedelic experience.
Yeah.
The brain lets more consciousness through.
Oh, yeah.
See what the brain does. It's not only a receiver of consciousness, it is like a transformer that kind of dumbs you down. It's like, because if you allowed everything in that's going on around you, especially if you're driving down the road, you'd crash because
it's so funny you said that, because I was literally just thinking that the other day. I was hyper aware, and I was so I microdose on mushrooms every now and again. And the other day I took a microdose and I was just sitting in traffic, and I'm like, if I allowed every single thing in my vision to come in, like the plane of field to come in, I would go insane. I would explode. There's no way that I can handle that.
Exactly. So that's what the brain does. It allows you to operate in this reality, but it also dumbs you down. And when you give it psychedelics, it opens up and lets more stuff in. That's when people see ghosts or whatever. I mean, I've never taken LSD or any of those kind of drugs. Back in the 70s, when I was young, I did smoke some marijuana now and then.
Hey, now.
But everybody did. So, but it doesn't create that kind of it does change your perception of things, no question, but it
Yeah, it
does.
like changes the dial on the radio a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, it definitely opens things up some, but not like those drugs you're talking about or mushrooms or whatever. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's what people are finally coming to realize, and of course those sort of psychedelics have been used for thousands of years by like the Indians and the different cultures that became very, they all had witch doctors or what's called shaman who would take the drugs and
Yeah.
talk to the ancestors or whatever and get guidance from them. So it was very common up until I guess something in the 30s or so, when in the United States and other Western countries we started cracking down on their use. But Coca-Cola, when it was invented back in the 19th century, was had cocaine in it. That's why it's called Coca-Cola.
Hell yeah, brother.
And it was invented to be a remedy for hangover. You drank a Coke in the morning and you felt a whole lot better because it had cocaine in it. But
Well, yeah. I mean, geez, you talk about an economic boom. Shit was getting done back then.
yeah,
People were building skyscrapers in like 3 weeks. They
it's
didn't,
great.
they don't need no safety harness.
Yeah, like, do you know that the Pentagon was built in like 4 months or something? A huge,
Is
huge
that
building.
right?
Yeah, right at the beginning of World War II. And now you can't get anything done in less than 10 years.
I know. Bring back the regular Coca-Cola recipe. We'll get shit done.
Exactly.
That's hilarious. But yeah, no, I'm with you with the. I'm so curious to when if we're so lucky to be on a deathbed and you're able to fully feel and be submerged in death, I guess, like the chemicals that are being released in your mind and what kind of feelings and emotions and what you see. And but it's interesting to me because how long does that last for? Before you check please and you're on to the next life or whatever happens.
Well, there's a time between lives. One of the interesting things about children who remember past lives is that that most of them, I think Dr. Tucker told me that the average time between lives for a child that remembers his previous life is 15 months. Now, that and 9 of that, of course, is while the mom is pregnant.
Well, true. Good point.
So, so they come back very quickly, the ones who remember. But that is not normal. Most, according to the Rosicrucians, again, I'm going to spill some of their secrets. According to the Rosicrucians, the average span between lives, between birth and rebirth, is 140 years. So if you spend 70 years on this planet in a human body, you're going to spend 70 years on the other side doing whatever you do over there before you come back. So,
Feel like the other side is better.
well, I think the other side is all reports, at least by people who have come back from being dead, from the near-death experiencers, say that it's like wonderful love, and you feel great over there. There are some people who have hell-like experiences, but they're rare.
Well,
And
it kind of seems like it's heaven and hell right now. Like when you die, you go back to this heavenly place, and then when you're born, I guess it depends on what you're born into in this realm, right?
well, let's.
What
I agree that life is typically very difficult, but that's why you come here, because the way you learn and evolve is by facing difficult situations and dealing with them and overcoming them. Anybody who has gone through a rough time, most people will tell you when they come out on the other side, they're a better person because of it, because of what they went through and had to deal with. Hated it at the time, of course, but then looking back on it, they realize how they grew from that. And so that's what life is about. It's about coming into this reality where things are difficult. It's been said that this Earth is probably the most difficult reality that anybody can come to, and dealing with problems that come up and situations and grief and financial problem, all the things that can happen here. But yet we grow as a result of it. We learn, we evolve, and that's what life is about. Life is about evolution. There's a whole the circle of life, as they say.
What's
And
interesting is that, like, I was just reading something the other day, and it said that nothing has meaning unless you give it value. You have to give it value for it to be meaningful. Like, if you just went around this earth a blank slate, nothing means anything. Like,
well,
it's to the human that gives it a value.
yeah, I think if you believe that only material substance exists and that you are a robot like uh, creation that is going to be, end when the plug is pulled, like the vacuum cleaner's going, and you pull the plugs. Well, if that's the way it is with you as a human, and there's nothing but nothingness afterwards, then you would have to become, uh, you know, a nihilist, someone who thinks that there's no reason for here. It's just a bunch of life is a bitch, and then you die. I mean that,
Yeah, yeah.
and but that's not true. And people who think that need to read some of my books, for God's sake.
Read
And
some of your books or stay the hell away from me. I don't need that negativity in my life.
yeah, so that's one of the reasons I write these books, because I think there are a lot of people who uh, need to find out that there is a reason for living. There is a purpose for life. We all made the choice to come here. We could have stayed on the other side, but maybe we got tired of all the love and everything over there because we wanted to come and experience and have an adventure. Life is it's like the hero's adventure where you leave the home and you go out and you fight the dragons and you go into the belly of the whale and you get out and then you come back at a knowing more at a higher level of understanding than when you left. And that's what life is about. Life is a hero's adventure.
Sometimes I will catch myself thinking about that stuff too. I'll just be like, why did I put 3/4 into that machine and play this game right now? when stuff gets hard in this realm, this reality. Like,
Yeah.
why did I choose to put that on? Why am I here?
Well, that's why you're here, to face that stuff and overcome it. And of
Yeah.
course, there's a thing called karma where, you reap what you sow. And did you see the movie Groundhog's Day?
Oh yeah, Bill Murray.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah.
To me, that is a perfect metaphor for what life is about. You keep facing the same situations over and over till you finally get it through your head and handle them right. And once you do, you can go on to other things you're going to face over and over again till you get it right.
Steven,
And that,
I wrote a like a comedy about this exact thing that you're saying.
yeah,
Yeah, like sometimes you can tell that this is the first time a person is a person from how terrible they drive. Like, oh, they're new here. Okay, let's give them a break. All right. Like stuff like that. Like you can tell it's someone's first time.
yeah, yeah. They call it young souls and old souls, and the young souls mess up a lot.
Yeah. You
But the
sit back
fact
like,
of
I've been here before. All right.
yeah, I've been here a number of times, and I'll probably be here a number more times.
That's right.
Because I'm still learning and trying to get it right, But yeah, actually, there is no such thing as a young soul and an old soul. We're all the same age. The only difference is that some of us have incarnated more times, and therefore we've learned more, and others have held back because they're chicken to come.
I'll tell you what, I don't trust that Tom Cruise character because he looks like a damn vampire. He hasn't aged a bit.
Right? Yeah.
So,
how does he do that?
how does he do that? What round is he on? He like, do you believe in vampires or anything like? Maybe not vampires specifically, but anything that's not humanoid, I guess, like something underlying. there's a lot of conspiracies and talks, like some politicians are lizards or something like that.
Well, no, I think that there are people who are totally out for themselves, which you could classify as evil, but who don't have a conscience. That these serial killers, for example, you
True.
know, I mean, they obviously feel no remorse or compassion for anybody but themselves. So that does exist. But as far as non-human people, I think may have been times in the very distant past when entities from other planets came here, and there are a lot of legends about that with like the Mayans and the Samaritans and people who say these gods came from the sky and things like that. Taught, there's the idea that Ra, the god in Egypt, came from wherever he came from and told them how to build the pyramids. That kind of stuff may have happened. I don't think it's going on now, but maybe it is. Who knows?
Have you heard of the Anunnaki?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Okay, yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, Anunnaki came down and used humans for slaves to do whatever
I
it
think
is.
it was like to mine gold, and they come back
something
and
like gold. Exactly. Yeah. Right. So, and also bred humans to have more bodies that work better and things like that. Yeah.
How deep you want to go tonight? Good Lord.
Yeah, I'm not really into all that too much, but I am very interested in ancient civilizations. I don't think that we have just developed civilization in the last 5,000 years since the Mesopotamia. I think we had
2 times that.
I think that we go way back, but that natural disasters, meteors, the Ice Age. When the Ice Age ended 12,000 years ago, it created all these floods because the ice caps were all over North America, most of it.
Let me ask you real quick. Do you think at one time, this on the same topic, do you think at one time that Earth was completely like an ice cube, the whole entire thing?
I haven't seen that, but there was certainly ice all the way down into, well, if you know the United States, where there are stone walls where farmers had pulled up rocks from the fields and stacked them up and made walls out of them. That part of Pennsylvania, for example, that's how far the glaciers from the ice cap from the North Pole came down that far, because those rocks were pushed down here by that ice as it formed. And when all that ice melted pretty quickly, first it created kind of lakes of water on top of the ice, and then when the ice melted a little more and opened up, that water came rushing down and caused the floods that are in the myths of practically every religion. Certainly the flood in the Bible, but also there are other cultures that have the same myth, because it really did happen. The shorelines of the continents were 300 feet lower than they are now, and so there were a lot of things on the coast that just suddenly got covered up with water. I mean, the flood really happened to them and just wiped them out. So I think that there have been civilizations that existed long ago that have been wiped out. That the flood would have been one, but there are geologists are finding where meteors have hit. There was one hit in apparently in Greenland that would have caused wiped out a lot of people back when it happened. I don't remember what the year was, but anyway. So yeah, I think there have been many civilizations before ours, probably almost as advanced as ours.
And maybe we could have been those people.
We probably were those people, but we were still coming back, still trying to get it right.
Still trying to get. What do you think happens when you get it right?
Well, the theories are that eventually we return to the source, God, if you want to use that word. I don't like to use that word because I think it's misleading. People think of
What
God
word
as
do you use? I'm just curious. You don't have to answer.
I use infinite mind, source,
That's
one
cool.
mind.
Yeah.
We're all part of the one mind. We're all aspects of it. We all share the same consciousness. There's only one consciousness. We
So when you
think
say
our
one mind, is it like now we got to take a large step back because this is what I'm envisioning, and I've thought about this as well. I know I keep saying that, but I have. You're like in my mind. You're like in my mind, Stephen. Um, when we're one mind, okay. So are we like is Earth and people on Earth just like a small speck, a part of a molecule into something much, much, much bigger? Think of like a blood cell in a human body, but space would be that human body, everything out there, and then us being humans would be that little blood cell.
Yeah, I think you could look at it that way. Obviously, there are trillions of planets, there are billions of galaxies and trillions of planets, and it's pretty, to me, it would be how in the world could this be the only rock that life formed on and
That's what
lived
I'm
on?
saying.
but but I look at it as this way, it's like a what are those Russian dolls called that fit
I
inside
think
each
that's what
other?
it's called, the Russian doll.
Yeah, well, there's a technical name for it, but
You
I don't
got
remember
me.
what it is. But anyway, we're that you and I are that little tiny doll down at the bottom, and then it goes on up to humanity, and then it goes to on to the whole one mind that we're all part of. There's one consciousness that we all share, but we think own it personally because we have this ego that's been built up since birth and built really since before birth. The many births we've had, we've developed a subconscious mind or an unconscious mind, and then we have a conscious mind. So we think we own the consciousness, but what we do really is share the consciousness. The one mind sees it all. We just see it from our perspective, from our little place here in the eyes that we're looking out of today. But the other metaphor I use is we're characters in the dream. When you have a dream at night, you dream about all those different characters that are in your dream. Maybe it's Tom Cruise or whatever is in your dream.
Hey, what the hell?
All these people are in your dream.
Get out of my dreams. How do you know what I'm dreaming about?
and you have a perspective that you're looking from in the dream, but those characters in the dream were created by your mind, weren't they? So
unfortunately,
yeah. So the one mind creates all these characters of which we each are one.
that's beautiful. It's called a nesting doll as well.
Ah, yes.
The Russian doll. I looked it up.
Yeah, good. Good for you.
when we're talking about like billions and billions of planet, and you had mentioned like it would seem kind of foolish to think that we're the only ones here. Where do you stand on aliens?
Oh, I think there definitely are other civilizations, and all this talk nowadays about UFOs. My first job out of college, I was working at an ad agency in Baltimore, and I had a boss who had been a colonel in the Air Force.
Oh, damn.
And yeah, and he had been a pilot in the Air Force and achieved the rank of colonel eventually. But we were out having drinks after work one day, and he told me about he was flying this transport plane over the Atlantic. He had a crew of, I think, 6 or 7 guys on the plane. He was the pilot. And this orb pulls up beside the cockpit and rides alongside the plane for half an hour. And all the guys on the plane saw it. And then eventually it just zoomed away to the, made a right-hand turn, which, they're going, 400 or 500 miles an hour, forward, takes a right-hand turn and goes. Well, he filed a report about it. All the crew vouched for it, and that was the last he ever heard of it.
Oh,
So that kind of thing apparently happens all the time, and the government doesn't want to talk about it because they're afraid, I guess, we're all going to panic that we're going to be invaded by aliens.
that's what I'm upset about. They talked about it finally, and no one gives a shit. No one cares.
Well, the thing is, I think these aliens or whoever it is that's visiting us are much more advanced than we are, and they're not going to they're going to respect our free will and not mess with us until we reach a point where we are ready to have contact with them.
There's a theory that says that that's us in the future.
Yeah, well, it could be. I think, one of the things that you learn in metaphysics is that time is a construct of this dimension. That time does not.
Yes, it is. Yes.
Time does not exist in other dimensions. Everything is all at once.
Tell my boss that. Doesn't work so well when I say it.
You mean when you're late for work?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think he is going to buy it.
I'm like, it's just a construct. We made this. Time doesn't exist.
Yeah. So actually, all your lives existed once, and probably your soul sees it that way, but, we experience things one at a time in a linear fashion because of this time construct that we're in, this four-dimensional reality, height, width, depth, and time.
Yeah, so I'm just going back to like these beings that might not be from Earth. And okay, so humans have ears and a mouth, so that's how we communicate. Like if we were trying to talk to an insect that doesn't have ears, they don't have the tools to hear us, so it's like that's useless.
Yeah.
Right? So about the other beings, like what method are they using to communicate? They don't. Maybe it's just like mind reading. We can't tap into that.
Yeah, when we're on the other side, when we're not in this reality, when we're in, if you want to call it heaven or the non-physical dimension, that is the way we communicate there. Thought to thought. It's ESP on steroids. We don't have a mouth. We don't have vocal cords. So we communicate through thoughts. And these aliens that are coming to see us probably they don't come from a reality necessarily. Some may, but they don't necessarily come from a physical reality. They could be coming from another dimension into ours to check us out. And so, yeah, that's whatever craft they're flying, is able to do that. I mean, they're so far advanced from us that, it'd make us look like cavemen.
It literally hurts my head just thinking about it. It honest to God hurts my mind because I feel so just like not important sometimes. Like my capabilities of what a human being can do is just, there's such a lack. It's lackluster,
Well, just remember, Jay, though, you're on this evolutionary path, and eventually you'll get there. We're all going to be around for a long, long time.
See in 500 years, brother.
That's right. Yeah, probably will. So, yeah.
Hey, do you believe in the moon landing?
The one that I watched on TV live in 1969? Yeah.
Okay, good. Well, all right, I'm not stopping there. Who is the person that walked on the moon? What was his name?
Let's see. Neil Armstrong?
Yes, correct. Okay. Now, I want you to do this for me. Neil Armstrong. First name and the first initial of his last name. And then you spell it backwards. It's probably hard if you don't have it's probably hard if you don't have a pen.
I can't do that in my head.
Okay, I'll say it for you. And it's the wildest thing. It spells alien.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Isn't that kind of wild?
It is wild. Yeah, but I do remember watching that on TV. I was actually at a restaurant
Oh my
in Baltimore,
God.
and they had it on the TV.
That's
Like
pretty good.
instead of having the football game on, they had the moon landing, and yeah.
What was
So
going through your mind? That's got to be surreal. You're seeing someone walk on the moon.
yeah, it was. There weren't many people in the restaurant. I think most people were at home, obviously, watching it, and it was a big deal.
Yeah.
Uh,
Wow.
Obviously, haven't been back much since then. A couple times, I guess, but just right after that. I think what was the last one? About 71 or something like that.
71 was the last time that we visited the moon.
I think so, if my memory serves me. The first one was 69, I think, and we went several times. First time they just went out and went around and came back,
Right.
and then they came, then they landed, and I think they did that a couple more times before the whole thing, they quit doing it.
If you were offered to go to space, would you do it? Would you?
No. No, I'd be scared shitless.
Come on, man.
I'd be afraid I'd never get back,
Yeah, but you're gonna be reborn. Who cares?
Well, that's true. I'm not ready for that yet.
That's the evolution part. A couple more years, maybe 300 more years, you'll be ready.
Yeah, maybe. So,
what do you think the ultimate destiny of humankind is?
That's something I've thought about, and I I think we may become universes. I think we may be evolving into being our own infinite mind, but I don't know. I do think that we eventually return to our source, but we maintain our sense of personal consciousness. That we stay us, but we merge. I had a very strange and mind-blowing experience when I was about 35. I was in at that
no
that
drugs.
time, no jokes. I was no drugs. Did not even.
All right, gotta ask.
Not even marijuana. I was or alcohol. I was. It was a beautiful Saturday or Sunday afternoon. I owned a house. I had a wife. I had a child, and I was on a lounge chair in my backyard. It was like 72 degrees. It was a beautiful blue sky. And I was just kind of there meditating. And it's like my mind merged with the infinite mind. And whatever I thought about, I knew all the answers. And it was kind of like what's many describe when they're talking about a near-death experience where you feel love, you're engulfed in it, and but
you're just be.
Yeah, you're like the universe, and really the thing that was mind blowing was whatever I thought about. It was like I knew about it. I knew all the answers. I didn't bring it all back with me when I came back to reality, or this reality, I should say. But enough to know that we are part of something much, much larger, and that's really where we're headed eventually. So, it's what's called a mystical experience, and I'm not the only person who's had one. And it's not that unusual. I've known others who've described something similar. So,
I wish they had that in pill form.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or we could just find some way to replicate that somehow. And because I know exactly what you're talking about. Unfortunately, I had to take LSD to get there, but what you were describing, I've felt it, and I was just what I just relayed to you was just be, and it was the most calm I've ever felt. And I was just like, why do we overcomplicate everything? Like,
Yeah,
we're just human beings. Let's just be. Let's just enjoy this experience.
exactly. That's really what
Yeah.
we need to do. And I think we may be moving toward that. And I think there are different levels of consciousness that we come to over time. And I think we're now in a transitional time that I don't know how long it'll take, maybe 100 years, but where we're moving from what's called third density into fourth density, and eventually we'll get to fifth density, and we'll realize that we're all one, and that we're, what I think as Jesus said, whatever you do to the least of these my brothers, you do to me. Well, he obviously understood that we're all one, and eventually here on earth I think we're going to achieve that. It'll be a while, but I think we're moving toward it.
Do you think it throws a wrench in the tire if we start integrating with AI into robots?
Gosh, the whole AI thing is
That
really got.
question just popped into my head because I'm like, if we end up like basically becoming an AI, like people won't die, and that seems like it can affect this whole reincarnation thing of some
Well,
sort.
one of the I don't know enough about that to really. All I could say is you can't download us into a computer. I mean, we're spirits. We're not physical. I mean, we have physical bodies that we operate in, but I am mind, and mind can't be put on a computer chip. So I don't see how that can be done. I do think that AI is going to change things tremendously, and I hope it doesn't change things for the worse. But I'm optimistic. I think it'll find its place, and it'd probably take a lot of jobs though. But
Oh,
then,
definitely.
but then each time you get an advance. When I first started work, everybody had secretaries. Nobody has a secretary anymore because we've got a computer.
Oh, the computer is the secretary now. Oh,
Well,
that
yeah,
slime ball. How dare you?
probably the best thing I ever did. Uh, the only class I still use that I took in high school was typing, and I was in the classroom I was one guy and 20 girls around taking typing back
Hey,
then.
you knew what was gonna come, man. You've lived it before. You're like, something's telling me that I should take this typing class.
and and since I'm a writer, it really does come in handy. It's something I use
Boom.
every day.
How about that? Steven, let's wrap this up, man. I appreciate you being here. That was a fun conversation. Thank you so much.
Well, I've enjoyed it too. Hey, listen, if your listeners are interested in finding out about my books or more about me, have them come to my website. It's really easy to remember.
Yeah, what is it?
It is S.H. Martin, SHMARTIN, SHMARTIN.com. And you can find out about my books there. You can send me an email through the contact page. I'd love to hear from you. So,
Great.
Yep.
Do you have any social media or anything?
Well, I've got a web page. But beyond my website, I do Facebook, and
You're not on TikTok?
no, I have a Instagram account, but I don't use it that much.
Ah, okay.
So
Okay.
main place would be my website.
Beautiful.
And
all right.
people do contact me through that, and I'll answer them. I'll be glad to answer questions if they have any. Tell them to get in touch.
All right. Get in touch. Appreciate you, Steven. Thank you so much, man. This was awesome.
All right. I've enjoyed it.
All right. Everyone at home, thanks for listening. See ya.
Welcome to the Curiosity Chamber.